XRP script in simple English, XRP might see a huge price jump overnight. And I'm not talking about a small increase. I'm talking about a giant change that would change how money works everywhere. This is called the Fix theory. It's an idea made by a man named Will Fix who died. His life story is almost as cool as his theory. I had a totally different video ready for you today, but I threw it away. Instead, I want to talk straight from my heart and mind, because this story needs to be told the way Will wanted it. Will Fix wasn't just another person excited about crypto throwing around wild guesses. He was a serious business owner who ran bail bond companies in 27 countries early in his work life, owned many insurance companies, and worked at a level most people can only dream about. When he talked about XRP, it wasn't just because he was a fan. It was because he understood world money, risk, and good opportunities. His Fix theory takes everything we've heard about XRP and turns it into a much bigger picture. Before I keep going, this isn't advice on what to do with your money, but what you're about to hear might make you think differently about how high XRP's price could go. The way Will explained it was simple but strong. Regular people who invest, people like you and me, could push XRP to $5 or $10 with enough buying and some big companies joining in. That's easy to picture. But that is not what XRP was really built for. This wasn't designed to be just another crypto thing. From the very beginning, XRP's main job has been to move huge amounts of money. And I mean huge. Think about the big companies Ripple works with. Some of the biggest banks in the world, government banks, payment companies, all moving billions of dollars every single day. XRP is the bridge in this system. It's like oil for the engine that will run the future of money. Bitcoin, even with all the excitement, cannot do what XRP can by how it's made. And yet, Bitcoin costs over $100,000 right now, while XRP sits at just $3.19. Now, before we go deeper, if you want to be one of the people who spots the next big money explosion before it happens, I've put together something that will change how you invest forever. In the pinned comment below this video, you'll find the Ultimate Millionaire Investor Guide. Find 100x stocks, a complete plan with videos, papers, and real examples that show you exactly how to find assets that could explode in value. This is not something you want to check out later. This is something you grab now before you miss the opportunities happening right now. Now back to the Fix theory. Ripple is now over the hump. If you've ever worked in sales, you know there's a time when you get rejected constantly. Ripple went through that in its early years, trying to sell their idea to banks and rule makers who weren't ready. But today, it's different. They have well over 300 major money companies working with them. Years ago, court papers even showed over 1,700 secret agreements. And that was years ago. Imagine how many more there are now. Being over the hump means they've passed the hardest part. Now they're in the sign-up phase. Government banks, world banks, money giants, the kind of players who don't just move millions, they move trillions. And when those trillions start flowing through a computer-based settlement system, you can't have the bridge asset XRP sitting at cheap prices. It simply wouldn't have enough money-moving power. Here's the problem those banks faced when XRP was around 50 cents, and even now at just over $3. If you have billions of coins in circulation but a low price for each coin, it limits how big the high-value transfers can be without messing up the market. In other words, the price has to go up a lot for XRP to do its job without problems. That's why Will said that at some point there must be a fix, an agreed-upon higher price for XRP to handle the money-moving demands of the new financial system. This isn't about hype. This is about how it works. If XRP is going to settle, not just billions but trillions in daily transfers, its price can't be in the single or low double digits. Some experts like XDC developer Quincy Jones have said asking for an exact XRP price is like asking which race car will finish at what exact time in a NASCAR race. You can't predict it perfectly, but you can predict where it will rank in the financial system. Right now, XRP is sitting in the top group of assets positioned for the global money bridge role. That alone tells you it won't stay cheap forever. Will used an example number of $25,000 per XRP in his talks, not as a prediction set in stone, but to show the scale needed. Others have thrown out numbers in the thousands. Even the IMF chatter that Linda Jones mentioned pointed to XRP being a done deal for a high-value role with pricing already decided behind closed doors. That's not something you hear about joke coins or guessing projects. That's the language of infrastructure. And here's where things get even more interesting. Rules are finally coming. For the first time in crypto history, we're seeing a framework that will allow big money, real big company money, to step in without worry. That's been the missing piece. You can have the best technology, the best partnerships, and the perfect use case, but without clear rules, the giants stay on the sidelines. Once they step in, the switch gets flipped, and the system needs XRP at its working price point, not its guessing retail price point. This is why the $5 to $10 targets so many regular investors talk about are just short-term thinking. Sure, those numbers might happen along the way, and if someone wants to take profits there, that's their choice. But those numbers have nothing to do with XRP's real intended value. The intended value is tied directly to the amount of global money it will move. And that's a number far beyond what regular people guessing could ever achieve on their own. If you're still holding XRP when this transition fully plays out, you won't just be holding a coin. You'll be holding one of the most strategically important assets in the new global financial order. The same asset banks will be using to settle cross-border transactions instantly. The same asset that will be used for loans, for earning money, for large-scale money operations. And as Will Fix made clear, the goal isn't to get out early with a few $1,000s in gains. The goal is to let XRP do what it was built to do, and in doing so, reprice itself to a level that reflects that role. Now imagine being on the right side of that revaluation, not after it happens, but before, when you really think about it. The Fix theory isn't just a prediction. It's a blueprint for how a global money asset must work. The system doesn't work unless XRP's price matches its purpose. And that means what's coming is less about guessing and more about necessity. Now, before I go deeper into how this transition could unfold, let me quickly remind you, if you haven't yet grabbed the Ultimate Millionaire Investor Guide, Find 100x Stocks, from the pinned comment, do it now. This is the same plan I used to spot opportunities like XRP before they hit their big moment. It's packed with videos, papers, and examples that make it practically impossible to look at the market the same way again. And while you're there, don't forget you can also get free NVDA stock worth up to $1,000 with just a $100 deposit using my Moomoo link. Both are in the pinned comment below. Here's why the pricing fix matters so much. If XRP stays cheap when the floodgates of big company adoption open, the amount of tokens needed for each large transaction would be huge, creating unnecessary ups and downs. But if the price is higher, much higher, a smaller quantity of XRP can settle the same massive transactions without messing up the market. That steadiness is critical for government banks and global institutions. In Will's view, once Ripple got past the rejection stage and into the sign-up phase, which is exactly where we are now, the only thing left was to bring the asset's price into alignment with its role. That's the part regular investors often overlook, because we're so used to thinking of price purely in terms of how much people want it versus how much is available. In reality, for something like XRP, price is also about working efficiency. Imagine a future where $1 trillion in daily settlement flows across the XRP ledger. At $5 per XRP, that system would be inefficient. At thousands of dollars per XRP, it becomes seamless. That's the kind of revaluation the Fix theory envisions. not as a wild gamble, but as a working upgrade to the world's financial plumbing. And when this